All right, good afternoon, class. Well, good morning. It is very late. I'm very sleepy. But good afternoon, class. Good morning, class. Today I will be going over chapters 9 and 12. Um, so we're going to start with chapter 9. Chapter 9 is titled, excuse me, Cultural Diversity of the Asian Population. Since cultural competency cultural competence has been instilled in us so much for the last couple of months, I figured we could just have an open class discussion real quick. So this is my whiteboard. I'm going to be using the whiteboard for my presentation for this chapter. I'm going to concept map this chapter. So, um, so let's start off by, jeez. So let's start off by dissecting what culture means to us. So I know we talk about it a lot, but let's just go ahead and just throw those ideas out there so you can have something right on your outline. So this is the class going to discuss what culture means to them, yada yada yada. Okay, so since we have all just witnessed all these different definitions of culture, culture is not. It is not. Even though poverty and cultural differences is stated in the OT in the official OT definition in licensure states, it is not clearly defined in its own category for OT intervention. So, and it's usually missed in OT intervention. So, since culture is not instilled to our DNA and it is learned through one's lifetime, it is important that we know what culture is because it is influenced by our environment. So, since I mentioned that is influenced by our environment, it is important to know when we're doing our assessments because, for like example, when we're using like a PEO model or whatever, and we're doing like we wouldn't be doing, but the OT would be doing like their initial OT, doing our initial OT eval. When you're assessing the person, the environment, and the occupation, you're basically assessing one's culture, even though it's not stated in an OT eval what's the culture of the person. You know what I'm saying? When you use your models, when you start to intervene, or when you start to create your intervention, you should be using all those aspects to collect. Okay, sorry, I was trying to hear my baby was crying. If you can collect, you should collect all the information and put it into their culture evaluation. I'm sorry, I lost my place, my train of thought. So, back to culture. So, with that being said, culture can be learned in several ways. Culture can be learned in three different ways. The first way is socialization. First way is socialization. And so socialization is basically influenced by our environment. So which may demand or offer opportunities for some types of behaviors and restrict others. So, for example, here in the United States, we are expected to drive on the right side of the road, pay our taxes, and drive to work on time, right? That is our culture of the United States. But if we did not partake in that, so like if we never got a driver's license or if we never got a job and know that we had to be at work at a certain time or even view our parents doing the things they do, we wouldn't know that that was a part of our culture because it is learned through our socialization, throughout our environment. And then we internalize them. So we learn these things by interacting through our environment and then we internalize them. So the second way is by learning through others, learning through the interaction of others. And so this is, since I said earlier, culture is learned throughout one's lifetime. It is expected that when you interact with people, you learn things, right? And sometimes you learn bad traits, you learn good traits. And most of the time when you learn good things, you internalize them and you want to instill it into your own culture. So for example, for myself, one thing that I learned that I have from my friend that I have instilled in my culture is taking a shower with the door open. I know that might sound real simple, but it's the truth. So um, one day back in college, I was going to visit my friend in her dorm room, and when I was on my way over there or whatever, she told me she was gonna leave the door open because she was gonna hop in the shower. So when I got there, she was in the shower, and I got there, and her door, and she was taking a shower with the door open. And I came in the room, I was like, "Why you got the door open?" And she was like, "Because, girl, I hate when it be hot in here, or I hate all that steam in here, so I just take a shower with the door open." So literally, ever since that one encounter of her saying that, and I'm like, that makes sense because I'm one who always complain, or I hate taking a shower and sweating, or taking a shower and getting out the shower and the mirrors all fogged up because all the steam in there. Because I like to wash my face, put my cleanser stuff in on my face once I get out the shower, but I can't do that right after I get out of the shower because the mirror's all fogged up. So the simple solution is to leave the door open. So still to this day, a lot of my friends or a lot of family members or whoever that I take a shower around, they always question me like, "Why you got the door open? Who takes a shower with the door open?" Me. So this is just one example of a trait or some, a trait that I have learned from my friend that I have internalized that I have created into my own culture. And the last way that culture is learned is subconsciously. So since culture is learned either formally, like in a formal setting, or informally, one might not realize when you're internalizing something that you've learned. So the example in the book says that a family might be going on a family outing, they might walk in the park or something, and their son tries to touch a frog, and they say, "No, honey, don't touch the frog. Don't do that." So without the little boy even knowing, he has already internalized not touching the frog or frogs being, internalized as bad or not being able to touch, because that's just something, he learned growing up. And it's something that he might do when he grows up, or when their family has another child, or when he wakes up and he has a child and they're walking in the park and he says, "Don't touch that, don't touch that frog. Frogs are not to be touched." That is something that he internalized through subconsciously from learning from his parents. Oh, so and then another example of that for like the elder population could be when elders enter a new nursing home, or enter a nursing home period, or enter I forgot to write subconscious for subconscious. Is when the elders enter a nursing home or they enter a new facility where they have to like adjust to a new schedule. So of course when they first get there, they're not gonna know like the ins and out of when they gotta go to bed or when they gotta eat, stuff like that. But after being there for a couple weeks or say a month or whatever, they're gonna internalize, they're gonna realize, okay, the CNA is coming to wake you up at 6 a.m. Gotta go to breakfast at 7 a.m. Then you gotta take meds at 8 a.m. So like that's gonna be internalized in them subconsciously because they learned that through interacting through their environment. Hold on just a second, Miss Langford. I gotta go get my charger because my phone about to die. Sorry. I don't want my phone to die. I need to extend a cord. Jesus. Found one. Moving quickly here. Okay. Okay, hopefully it's plugged up. I can't really tell. It didn't make a noise. Okay. All right, back to my PowerPoint. Sorry about that. So yeah, the last way is learning subconsciously. Next. So there are also different levels. To culture, or to one internalizing culture. And so the first way So the first way is individualized. Is individual is a person. Jeez, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so the first level is individual, and so this is basically how an individual, so like myself or yourself or whoever, how you interpret culture, like, or how you interpret your own culture. And yeah. So examples of this may be like the use of humor, definition of personal space, because everybody's definition of personal space is not the same. Everybody's use of humor is not the same, and it's not interpreted the same either. Coping styles and or role choices. So like for those with all this transgender stuff going on and all this equal rights stuff going on, that is the first level. The second level is learned through family. And so family includes issues such as gender roles, so like within the household. So I know like back in the day, a lot of people thought that the wife was supposed to stay at home with the kids, take care of the kids, all that kind of stuff. But sometimes the role has changed. Like in my situation, I tell you all the time that Nick is the mom. Like he's a stay-at-home dad. So the roles have changed. So that includes gender roles, family composition. So basically, same thing with like gender roles. Even though, say, like there's a mother and a daughter in the house, and even though like there's the mother, the daughter might be the one that's bringing in all the income or making all the money. So you never know. And then the last way is through the community. So this is shared. So this is shared with a larger population in our region. So examples of this is like language, slang. Like how they say St. Louis people are country, because with our slang, with whatever, I don't really see it. But it's things like that, and like your geographics, and like what area you stay in. Oh, Jesus, I forgot I'm supposed to be writing this up at the same time. Individuals, family, and community. Okay. Okay. So, speaking of geographics is the reason why people get culture and ethnicity confused. This is because people usually generalize the two, and they assume that people who belong to a particular group /state /culture /whatever are often the same, and that's not the truth. So the term ethnocentricity is a bad characteristic or a bad trait that we do not want to have. CODAs, we do not want to have. You do not want to have this trait, because this trait basically means that one person, so like say me, the CODA, with a degree, license, whatever, believe that my way is the only way. So my belief is the only belief, and that I'm superior to you, and you just listen to me because what I'm saying is the only way. No. That is no way to be culturally competent or to be able to give an effective treatment to these individuals. That's not the way it goes. Oh. Yeah, I don't have the right name. Yeah, that's not the way it goes. So an example of this definition can be, the biggest example is with Hitler in Germany. So of course he felt superior to all the Jews, or whatever the case may be. He didn't like one Jew, and he probably had a bad encounter with one Jew, but he just lumped them all together like, okay, no, I don't like none of the Jews. So he felt that his way or the highway. So if you wasn't disliking the Jews or trying to help me kill the Jews, then it was bye-bye with you too. And that is no way to be an effective practitioner, because we cannot act like we're superior to a client. So I could see this happening easily probably with working with P's, because we probably feel that I'm the adult, you're the child, so you gotta listen to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta listen to me, and you can't have an input on your treatment session or how things go. That's not right. But in the same thing for the geriatric population. Say you're working with somebody who has incurred cognition, that's maybe like has a mild intellectual disability or a severe intellectual disability, and just because they are cognitively unstable doesn't mean that their inputs are not valued. You cannot just try to act like you're superior to them just because you're the coder, you got the white coat on, and you got the degree. That means nothing. In order to have a meaningful intervention for our clients, we have to listen to their inputs. Okay, moving on. Okay, so the two main things, so the two main things from culture is how it's learned and the different levels. Now we're moving on to diversity. So, well, actually, we could have stopped right here at ethnicity. Ethnicity slash culture. I'm gonna lead to diversity and why diversity is so important. So, diversity. Oh, over here. Diversity. So, what is it? Why is it important? We know what diversity is, right? We know that diversity basically means that no one is the same. No one person is the same. No one person has the same values. No one person has the same beliefs. All that kind of stuff. You might, but we also, it is important because we come in contact with so many different people every single day. Just like right now, we're in this classroom. We're in a classroom OT culture, but we all are not the exact same robots. Like we all still have our own beliefs, our own values. Even though we share the same classroom culture, doesn't mean we share the same cultures when it comes to our home. So another thing that people think of when they hear the term diversity is like minorities versus majorities, and so it's minorities versus majorities, and this is basically used. Those terms are basically just used to designate people into smaller groups or into groups that are that are superior to one another, or that are stuff like that. Just to say diverse, but it's really not a good thing to think about or a good point of view to have when you think of diversity, because that's not all diversity is. So, something good to have, something good to, something that you will want to instill in yourself to being able to become very diverse is being able to be culturally pluralistic. This is a good value to have. So in the book, it's called culturally pluralism. That's the term. But I'm saying culturally pluralistic. I'm guessing that's right. It is a good value to have because it basically shows that you accept and celebrate the differences between people rather than putting them down or shunning them. So we already know that, like I said, like this classroom is our own culture, but even though we're all different, we don't put each other down just because one wears glasses or or one hair is longer than the other. We don't do that. We just accept each other's differences. It is what it is. Everybody cannot be the same or look the same. So, another reason why diversity is so important, because another reason why you should be diverse is because it will help embrace one another. So each person differs. So between me and you and the elder population, we're going to differ, but we're also going to be the same. So even though diversity is about being different and all the qualities of and all our different qualities, we will still be the same. And so culture should recognize the ways in which we are different from elders and the way we are similar, because we can use those similarities or differences in the treatment to enrich the elder's life. So let's say a good way that we can instill like a difference is when you're trying to learn something or you're trying to teach a elder something, and you teach them in your way. So even though you might not think of them as being the same as you or being different, but I lost what I was gonna say. Yeah, we work on that. So anyway, another reason why it is important to be diverse is because culture should. Oh, I just read that. Sorry, I'm really messing up here. It's because elders 65, yeah, elders 65 and up represent 14.8% of the U.S. population, which equals to about 40%. 40%. No one person is the same. Okay. um, it equals about 40 million people. So that is a big chunk of people that we're gonna be working with, and they're all diverse. Nobody's the same. Like I've already discussed, we might all have the same kind of beliefs or values or cultures, but we're not the same. We're individually, we're all different. So there are some statistics in the book that basically just show like the diversity between the elder population. So 80% of the elder population is white, 8.4 are black, and then 0.4 are Native Americans, and so on. So the the uh, the point of these charts and these graphs in the book is to basically just show how diverse the population is, the elder population is, which is something that we need to know when we're working with them. So since we will be working with such a diverse population, we need to become culturally sensitive to each individual. So in order to become culturally sensitive between each individuals, one must first. Oh, let's see. Culturally. Oh, that's not right. Culturally sensitive. So, one way that one can become culturally sensitive is acknowledging your own prejudice, biases towards a certain individual or towards elders in general. So you all remember that test we took in Miss Howell's class where we had to take that little cultural competency test and had to see which one we like better. Maybe that's something you should do. You should use it as a resource tool for yourself. Saying if you like working with, if you got a new caseload and you have like an Oriental lady, or if you have somebody from a different culture that you're not familiar with, and you might know people who, or your family members or people of your culture or your community who are already biased towards individuals. So it might be something that might be instilled in you subconsciously that you didn't know. So in order to get rid of that, you could take that quiz like we took in class, figure out why you don't like these people or what you don't like about these people or whatever the quiz is going to show you or whatever, and you can leave it at the door. So once you figure out your own prejudice and biases towards a person, you can leave it at the door when you go and treat them. The next way to become so culturally sensitive is the clinician must learn to adapt to the client's culture rather than demand them to adapt to ours. So, man, this is not about us. Like, you cannot expect a client to come in to your treatment area and adapt to your treatment, the way you treat people or your treatment time, all that kind of stuff. No, if we are supposedly treating people holistically and all this client-centeredness stuff, you have to adapt to their culture. You cannot expect them to adapt to yours because it's not about you, it's about them. The next way is to not generalize because it will limit, not generalize people, with the whole ethnic and cultural thinking that they're the same. Don't generalize people because it will limit our abilities to see like the client's uniqueness, like the individual uniqueness. If you generalize all old people as being slow or not being able to learn things, like I can't believe went over her myths of you can't teach your old dog new tricks. If you already have that bias or that generalization coming into the treatment session, then it's not gonna be good because, like we seen on Kimberly's PowerPoint, that lady was 90-something years old. She went and got a bachelor's degree. Like, you can't tell me that I can't learn new tricks just because you already encountered somebody who didn't learn. That wasn't me. So you can't put that off on everybody. And the last way that you can learn, a last way to become culturally sensitive is simply just asking questions or just observing behaviors. So if you're coming into a new facility and you got You got coming into a new facility, and you got clients, and you have a client from a different culture that you're not familiar with, or just any client in general. Because when you're treating and seeing clients, you're still working within their culture. So what you want to do is you want to ask the OTs, you want to ask the speech pathologists and the PTs and everybody, that all the disciplinary teams. Hey, how does this person do such and such such? How does this person do this? How do they like this? How do they work with people? You know what I'm saying? Like you could just ask. You could just ask people about the person. It's that simple. Or you can observe. So I don't know like how it actually is in the work field, but I was thinking like maybe if you come to work, like you say this your first day on the job, whatever, and you just got this caseload. Like I said, you didn't know somebody because they're from a different culture. Maybe observe, because I'm pretty sure we're gonna be shadowing. You might, I don't know how it works when you get a job, but I'm pretty sure you might shadow like the OT or CODA a day before they actually release you on your own, or maybe they might not. But if they do, you can observe the client's behaviors and how they interact with people, and that can help you pick up on their culture as well. So these are basically just some ways of what you just wrote down on the outline, or some ways or some tips that can help a coder become culturally sensitive to one's culture. That way you can become culturally oriented towards towards each elder, so that you can provide a meaningful intervention. So there are 4 ways that you can become oriented. So there are 4 ways. Oh, I probably should have wrote that in cultural sensitivity. Nah. Yeah, that was just regular bullet points. So there are 4 ways that you can break down. That you can become that will help you become culturally oriented. The first way is by learning one's cognitive style. And so this cognitive style between a person is not only how they process information, but it is what a person chooses to accept or ignore. So the first type of cognitive style there is open-minded people. First type on your bullet point. The first type is open-minded. And open-minded people seek additional. They will want to seek additional information before making decisions. So these type of people will ask a lot of questions. They want a lot of examples, and they're going to seek alternatives. Because they're open-minded, so they want to try to find the best alternative before they make a decision. And that's like me. I'm very open-minded. Like I want to know all my resources before I make a decision. So the next type of cognitive style is closed-minded people. So, however, these type of people see things through a narrow point of view. So, like how we've talked about, and it is studies shown. So the book has mentioned that studies have shown that most cultures produce closed-minded people, and this is probably and I'm pretty sure they was talking about like the elder population, because a lot of our generation is pretty open-minded, but I'm pretty sure they're talking about the elder population. This is because how we talked about like the traditionalists and the baby boomers time period, the traditionalists specifically when they went through the Great Depression, they didn't have much, so they didn't have options to seek through or check through before they made a decision. They had to just go with whatever works. So I can totally see how it could be a lot of closed-minded elders, because they mostly, like how people say, stuck in their ways. Like they believe that it's only one way, and that's it, because they wasn't exposed to all the technology and all the resources that we have today. They wasn't exposed to that back then. So it still might be taking them a minute to process all the options that they have out here. So the next type of way that the other kind of cognitive style is people who think associatively. So these type of people, they process new information and new data through learned experiences. So for example, y'all writing anyway. So, for example, when trying to teach an elder to transfer from, like a new transfer technique from transferring from the wheelchair to the toilet, you can basically tell them, okay, Mrs. Smith, this is exactly like transferring from the bed to the wheelchair. So if you do that, they can help transfer their learning over. So, oh, okay, well, if this is the same type of transfer, I'm pretty sure, I got to do the same movements, and they'll get from the wheelchair to the toilet. So the next type of way, the next type of cognitive scale is people who think in a lateral way. Is people who think abstractly, and so these people who have like wild imaginations and are very creative. So, for example, for these people, if you're teaching somebody a transfer technique for for an abstract thinker, you can tell them, all right, Miss Smith, I need you to get from point A to point E. From point A to point B. Instead of saying, okay, Mrs. Smith, like the last group, okay, Mrs. Smith, you're going to have to do this, and that. This group of people, you can say, okay, Mrs. Smith, I need you to get from point A to point B, and you can get there however you want to, as long as you do it safely, as long as you stay in alignment, as long as you still stand, pivot, all that kind of stuff, but you can figure out how to get there on your own. Those type of people, there are other type of people who learn things better. So another example could be like a way to explain something to an abstract thinker could be when you're trying to teach them like hip precautions or something. They might say, okay, write down all my hip precautions or write down all my safety precautions for my hip. And you write them all down and they learn them by making it into a song. It's that simple. Okay, so the next type of way that you can become culturally oriented is by understanding what is accepted as the truth. Okay, let's just put truth. So what is accepted is for one person as the truth. Oh my God, I know it was that late. Oh Jesus. Because people, because this is important because people from different cultures arrive at the truth in different ways, right or wrong. So the different ways that people can arrive to the truth is 3 ways: faith, fact, and feeling. Okay, faith, fact, and feeling. So people who arrive to the truth of faith believe that things are derived from a region or a political idea that is determined what is right or wrong or what is bad or good. So, for example, an elder who believes that self-sufficiency will not be willing or will not be open to using a walker or a cane or any kind of adaptive equipment because they see that they look down on those being bad, even though we know that adaptive equipment is going to clearly help them not becoming so fatigued or help them ambulate around. They're not going to see things the way we do, so we just have to accept that. Like, okay, you don't want a walker, then you got to be stuck in a wheelchair. I don't know, but they won't see things the same. So the other way that people arrive to the truth is by facts. And so these are people that want evidence. So these are the people that's going to always be asking and questioning, why I got to do this? And why is this helping me? And why am I doing this? So these are people you want to hit with the facts. So you can show them, you can bring evidence base, you can show them videos, you can show them all kind of stuff. But remember, you're working again with elders. So even if you go and research this 20-page article that proves why doing this is important for functional activity, they still might not understand it. So the best type of intervention for people who rely on facts is to put them in group interventions with other elders that's working on the same thing as them, so that they can see that okay, if this is working for them, I know this will work for me. And the last way is through feeling. So this is gut instinct only. So these type of people, they gonna go off their gut instinct. If they don't like you, they don't like you. So if they feel like that you're not here to help them, they're gonna feel that way. It's nothing against you. It's their own internal beliefs and values. So the way you can help these type of people is building a rapport. Of course, getting their rapport down first so that they won't even have to question before you even do any interventions, talking what to do. Build their rapport with them. Spend a couple sessions just talking to them, interviewing them, so they can try to build that trust, so that they can know that you are here ultimately to help them. The next way to become culturally oriented is through value systems. It is through value systems. So the way a person perceives things and the way a person evaluates things to be true can provide all type of general clues on how a person or what a person values. So there are also four different ways people value things. And so the first way is decision making. So this is basically um, decision making is basically divided into two categories, which is like individualism or collectivism. Individualism decision making is basically the individual making decisions for themselves. Like they don't have to consult with nobody. Like they make a decision if they feel what they need to get done needs to get done, they're gonna do it. And so the opposite for collectivism, this is gonna be for an individual who has family members, who has a sole uh caretaker, who they have to discuss with, or a POA, power of attorney, POA, yeah, power of attorney, who they have to discuss decisions with before they actually make them. The next way is sources of anxiety reduction. So, people can rely on social anxiety induction. Some people rely on social anxiety reduction by religion. So people who turn to religion, to reduce anxiety or uh, to reduce anxiety, they may need compensation. They may need they may need special considerations, not compensation. Same thing. They may need special considerations when it comes to their treatment setting. Like if they need to be able to go to a chapel before they go to a treatment session, they need to be able to make sure, they can incorporate their religion before their treatment session or during or whatever. People who rely on technology, people who rely on technology, one, two, three, oh wait, one, two, three, four. Oh yeah. The next way is people who rely on technology. People who rely on technology for as their value. To reduce anxiety, which is basically meaning that they need like a second opinion. So these are people who like just went through a CAT scan or whatever, and they was like, no, I need an MRI, or they need to or somebody who goes to the eye doctor and say, no, I need to go to a specialist. They just need extra testing, further testing, things to come to their conclusion. And so these type of people are probably type of people who rely on facts. People who to help reduce their anxiety, they need facts. So the next way is issues with equality and inequality. So even though all men were created equal, we are still there are still certain prejudice for certain groups, like I've already discussed. Even if you say you're not prejudiced towards this group, or you like all people, all men created equal, you might subconsciously have instilled some prejudice against a group that you had no idea about. So, the elder population, they might be prejudiced. Like it just happens. It happens sometimes. Some might not want to work with a younger therapist because they might not think that we know what we're doing because we're younger. Or like for the traditionalists, once again, they work off hierarchy. So they might see us as, that don't mean nothing to me. Like this is a kid talking to me. I'm not gonna listen to a kid. You know what I'm saying? Like they ain't gonna need maybe like a experienced OT or an older OT. They might not want a female. They might prefer a male or a female. Or they might prefer white people over black people, or black people over white people. You know what I'm saying? You never know. So never take anything offense when it comes to an elder and their prejudice. That's just how it works. So it's nothing you can do about it. It's either work with them or don't work with them at all. Or, even if they prefer a different coding, then don't take it to heart. It's just that simple. And then the last value system is the use of time. So the use of time is like a language here in the U.S. So there's two different types. So there are monochronic people, and so these type of people are use one thing at a time. They can work on one thing at a time, or that time is money. The time is precious. Like you cannot waste any time. So and they need like the undivided attention of a person. So with these type of people, these type of people are not the people that you can just chit chat with doing doing an intervention or a treatment session. I know you want to try to probably build that build that rapport. But these type of people, they on a schedule. Like they want to come in and get it done. They ain't worry about nothing else. And then the next type is called polychronic. It's called polychronic. And these people organize around social relationships, and they like to take their time. And they're often threatened by schedules. So these are the type of people that want to interact with you and talk to you and try to figure things out and build that rapport with you while they're doing their treatment session. These are the type of people that like to do that. Okay, and so the fourth and last way to become culturally oriented is through a client's communication style. Okay. It's the person's communication style. And so there are two different types of communication styles. We all know there's high contact and there's low contact. So high contact, communication style is important in general because we all communicate differently and everybody perceives verbal and nonverbal and contact in situations differently. So this is why it's all unique to each individual. So high contact situations are very indirect. So we are not a high contact situation. High contact culture, but it's very indirect. So they rely less on verbal and more on through shared experiences. So like these type of people that don't want to hear you say, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Like they don't want all that verbiage. Because some people might think that you're talking down to them and that you don't understand how to tie your shoe. Like if you say, okay, ma'am, okay, Mrs. Smith, go ahead and tie your shoe. But first, pick up the pieces. Then second, tie them through the loop. Or hell, I don't know the steps to tie your shoe. But these type of people, they would think that even though we're just, putting on our clinician hat and we're trying to make sure, doing our activity analysis to make sure we're breaking out each step, they might not look at it the same. So you just have to pick up on that vibe and you'll be able to figure it out. And then the next way is the low contact. So this is the direct form of communication. So we directly communicate. Like the United States, we are a low contact kind of place. We rely on verbiage for communication. Like we don't do the subliminal stuff. We can't figure it out. We need you to stay. This is what you need to do. So with all that being said, in conclusion, it is important that CODAs design our achievement. It is important that we design our achievement plans individual to each person's each diversity. We have to be culturally sensitive. We have to be culturally oriented towards each person. This is important information for us to know in order to successfully create an intervention plan that's meaningful to the person. So, and that is it. That is my chapter 9. After this chapter, we will play a little culture game, and then we'll take a break before I do chapter 12.